All right, so hopefully I'm here. I got back into stream as soon as I could because I didn't want the stream to end. So my computer's actually continuing to to reboot and load stuff. Let's see what's going on in the chat. You can hear me, but not see me. It's frozen. Yeah, I know. Sorry, no nothing. I'm glad that you're here, or at least you were here. Yeah, it's a big disaster. It's just fitting for a Monday that I should have to deal with such things. It's always when I least expect it. I'm like, oh yeah, everything's really good. Everything's super, super working. And then clearly it isn't. All right. Sounds good. Well, thankfully at least I can reboot quickly. I was going to do a little preamble. I posted a video this morning. You can check it out this morning as I record this. You can check it out. Just a little bit on the whole stuff with TechML that came up kind of in the last week and also over the weekend. I won't go into it now. You can check it out. PolyKid, I linked to it in the forum. Also posted probably a better video on such things. It was a bummer for me to read, but it happens. But now I feel like I'm already behind. So whereas I wanted to at least spend a moment on that, I won't. Now what's going on? I'm trying to load Acrobat. All right, Acrobat's loading extremely slowly. Let me get it up there. There we go. So I've been pondering how to do this. Oh my gosh, what is? I've been pondering how to do this because I have actually owned Mork Borg for a while now. I had a physical copy. Then Free League Publishing was kind enough to gift me an electronic version of the book, and I'd heard a lot about it. I know that it's really, I don't want to say changed the face of the OSR, but it's definitely established maybe or exemplified the kind of metal, sort of death metal faction or wing of the OSR. Oftentimes I do these read-alongs. I go through page by page. I'm probably not going to do this here. When I flipped through the PDF just earlier, it's like a fever dream of sort of like the folks from Metalocalypse cartoon just came in and just went like full gonzo on it. It's kind of a beautiful layout, just in terms of visually, though it's at the same time, and I put this out to you folks who have used Mork Borg, how it comes across in the readability, because it in that sort of maze in the Blue Medusa, maybe a little bit, is this something that, sure, it's got this incredible design just from an aesthetics, you want to put it on your role-playing game coffee table and say, just marvel at like this beautiful art and everything, but then using it, does it end up weighing it down, or does it end up maybe becoming counterproductive? I'm not sure. But I did know that as I was trying to look at, well, I was trying to think about, well, what sections maybe could I cover? It was really hard for me to organize, to adapt it to organization, because everything was just exploding in my senses. It was confirmed this morning, so unless something untoward happens, Thursday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern US time, 9:30 p.m. Central European time, I will be chatting with at least one of the authors of Mork Borg. So looking forward to that. And folks, if you have things that you would like me to touch on when I talk to them, let me know. But that was kind of the impetus of finally breaking the seal on this, so to speak, is because I'm going to be talking to them. So I want to kind of have the thing fresh in my mind. I think I'm just going to pick and choose stuff and go along. I'd like to try to get it done in an hour. So I'm not going to religiously read through everything. You folks who are in here in the chat, or folks who come in on the chat, let me know if there's particular parts that interest you more than others. Otherwise, I'm going to be picking, choosing stuff as is my wont, to look at. Now, nothing says, I'm not a big style guy. Once I know the rules, I'm not looking at the book during play, so how much the art pulls me in doesn't matter much. Yeah, I kind of lean towards that point of view. Patrick Bernard. Hey, Patrick. Says they found it super usable. Most of the actual rules are on the end pages, and the system is simple itself, so there's not a lot of reference. Okay, cool. Well, so the first thing we get after the title is some tables, and I love tables. And it looks like we can already see that there's no particular framework. I don't want to say framework's not the right word. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables on this page, and I think 2 of them are using D12s. One of them uses a D10. One of them's using a D66, and one of them's using a D6 and a D8. So I think if we're just going to look at what is this telling us as we're first opening this book is it is not a book that is going to be it is a book that's going to push a particular mechanic system. This is not something that has a single method D20 or D6s or D66s or D30. It seems like we're going to find a lot of different stuff that's going to use a lot of different dice, which I think is both good and bad. I think it's good in the sense that we have all these wonderful polyhedral dice. Let's use them. At the same time, we always have to remember or to keep on hand that simplicity that can sometimes come with having a single system. Maybe they're eschewing that to a certain degree, and maybe it's interesting that we see this just right up front, that already we're seeing this kind of plethora of different things within one page. So we have the first table is man, woman, lost souls all, and then we get some names ranging from Arg Taval, Harmug, Kutz, Prugl, and just to grab a few. I don't know. I think the authors there might be from different places. I'm not sure where the authors are from. I think there's a Swedish version, so I don't know if these are sort of Scandinavian names. I mean, certainly to my very non-educated ear, they sound Scandinavian. But that's cool. It's always good to have names on hand. And I like when books print them, even though there's tons of resources for names. You never know when you're going to need them, and you might not always have that resource on hand. But presumably, if you're playing the game, you'll have the book. And then next to it, and the other thing I think about these tables is they don't necessarily relate to each other. We go from names to occult treasures, to traps and devilry, to weather, to corpse plundering. So we're going to see, and from my quick flipping through the book, I did feel like there's a little bit of this kind of scattershotness to it. And that certainly seems to be true here in terms of this page. Dungeon Master Masterclass says, I had a new player roll a d12 to hit for a whole adventure. Sometimes using fewer dice types can be good. I guess, was he trying to roll low or high? And then Stochastic Agency says, the supplemental cards and other third-party stuff really add to the core game. Okay, cool. I might get to that. I do have... Free League has been super kind enough to send me the... a copy of electronically of I guess a first party expansion or source book or something for Mork Borg, but I think it's under the it's under, what do they call it? I can't talk about. They don't want anybody to talk about it, I think, until next month sometime. So sometime next month I'll get to that as well. I might ask them about it, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to talk about the expansion or source book, their further thing for Mork Borg. But there it is. All right, so we got some names, got some occult treasures, an ash gray ring. The keening music of this small vial flute animates a fetus-sized meat golem in a nearby corpse. Oh, we even got stats for the meat golem. A fetus-sized meat golem. Boy, that is... tasty. So we can already see the kind of gonzo things we're going to hear. A vampiric furba heals you as it harms your target, but beware, after stealing a total of 6 hit points, you have to test your presence, which I think is one of their stats, or become addicted. Oh, that's nice. And I guess these DRs are their difficulty rating. I don't know if 12 or 14 here is high or low. There it is. As far as traps and devilry, get stuff like a well-dressed corpse that's booby-trapped, a scorpion-filled basket that's poised to fall, fish hooks hanging at eye level, and evil urns that release cold ghosts. And then weather, lifeless gray, hammering rain, piercing wind, crackling frost, irritating drizzle, roaring thunder, grave-like cold. And then I don't think there's anything here that's particularly comforting. Because black is night. Hopefully it is night when you roll that weather. Or it's dead quiet. All of these seem somewhat ominous. Stochastic Agent says, our first go at the game had the apocalypse in 4 days. I believe it. And then we get the D66 table here is for corpse plundering. We can get options here, things like remains of something worthless that crumble in our hands. We could also get some silver. Those are kind of at the far ends of these D66 rolls. Otherwise, we get stuff like a pot filled with extremely potent itching ointment, a necklace of human teeth, a bag of Henry venomous moths, a death mask of one of the PCs. Oh, I like that one. That one I like a lot. Ooh, and the water of life. Stochastic Agency also says it is the death metal of games. It definitely feels that way. I mean, certainly the art and presentation lend itself. I think that's the other funny thing is how many different fonts are there on this just one page? This looks like this one. Let's see. Well, I guess the main text font is all the same, but the titles, we've got at least 3 different fonts. I'm thinking at least it appears to be 3 different fonts. and they're different sizes too. But neither, yeah. There's a lot going on here. And here we get it's going to a piece with or just a kind of the your what is it, front matter, the authors, the playtesters, proofreading, all that stuff. This is the second edition. I'll read this big paragraph here if I can do a good job translating it. Stochastic Agent says, if you get your hand on the hardcover, it's best read under a black light. I do have the hardcover. I don't know where it is, otherwise I put out just to confirm that I have it. Yeah, I think that might be a nausea-inducing experience reading that under a black light. Hey, Terrence, glad you could join us. All right, so I guess titular text, the header text. The wind from the west, from the sundered land, rot rides it, and the stench of blood. Cursed walker, will you travel there? To the valley of the unfortunate undead? Our young ones are taken by the child thief Turgle, known for his vile crimes and alchemy of flesh. Well, that's certainly a scene setter right there. What was written must be known, it says in big letters. And here we are running. Ooh, there's a lot going on here. The one thing is I'm not even sure. I'm going back and forth between pages because it's one of these things that I felt like the header text was kind of a scene setting, doing a great job, and there's this very gritty, grainy, gothic, black and white picture of it looks like potentially, I guess, a castle, maybe. Distances shift, paths between places warp. As if this pale, lightless world possessed a will and bitter life, its mercy curdled to wrath over a too long age. Who are you? The grave robber with silver glittering between cracked fingernails? The mystic who would bend the world's miserable heart away from its inevitable end? Most likely, it makes little difference. No one has seen the sun in years. The old care more for sacrifice and god offerings than their bawling spawn. Doomsayers are proved right time and again, and embraced by hidden powers. Maybe it's best to surrender, to trust your own instinct and skill rather than the whim of the dice. Before all is drowned in welcome silence, life locked and failing in a dark fort. All right, so yeah, we're definitely getting the gloom, the grim, and then we're getting some more. Here's that big, reminds me of Blondie, like 70s New York City, New York dolls. What was written must be known. And Nookschlager, monk of the Cretan order, encountered the basilisk Verhu in the year 565 and set down that creature's whispered prophecies. These lost texts came to be known as the Nameless Scriptures. 300 years later, while working on a new cathedral, the two-headed basilisks, an Orthodox branch of the Cretan order, uncovered Schlager's tomb and with it the Scriptures. Since then, all events described within have come to pass. The prophecies are absolutely, factually true and have, thus, supplanted all other scripture. Around this cathedral has grown Galgenbeck, the greatest city that ever was. Sarcastic Agent says it's a bit zine punk and fits the setting. It is definitely punk for sure. That's probably what I was thinking of. Kind of, yeah, that sort of 70s punk scene. Ramones, New York Dolls, Blondie. Forget the guy's name who was that producer that produced all of them and then went and was also involved with the Sex Pistols. Maybe he didn't produce Blondie, but he was definitely with the New York Dolls. Can't remember his name though. It'll come to me probably way after the stream is over. All right, so I'm again, apologies. I'm kind of skipping around, but it's kind of hard not to. There's just so much going on. I think this is kind of like I guess this is kind of a setup for the world. So we have that opener of this Cretan order, some kind of religious order, and there's this guy Schleger who encountered a basilisk that gave them these prophecies or these scriptures that were lost and then found. The basilisks are two and two-headed. The four heads have argued for hundreds of years. Verhu predicts inexorable annihilation and, since he's always right, has become utterly full of himself. His is also the head worshipped most. If you could learn the codes of the apocalypse, perhaps the right offerings might have heard it. Verhu loves his position and hungers for temples to be raised in his name. When the world was but water, dust and clouds, thick with plague-fat flies, came she, first of the basilisks. From the cracks of Bergen crypt she crawled. She bears the head of denial, Lucy, who looks up and down. Yet all shall be well. Her twin, Ark, head of deception, claims to be the first prophet of truths, now prostituted by Verhu. Few have ever seen her, the oldest, but many walk her twin paths. She spawned many since the dawn of time, their conceptions not without agony. All were cast down the cliffs of Bergen crypt. Only he survived. Down in the valley of the unfortunate undead, his eyes locked upon the mountain's peak. He spits out curses upon his evil mother. The head Gorg is bitter, rank with envy that only his twin Verhu knows the damned truth. Time and time again his prophecies are brought to be. The piles of gold gift riches from his faithful teeter and slide, so tall are they. All right, and Stochastic Agency is letting me know I'm on the right path, that these are the setting and then some history and mythology. Great. The world dies even now. Reality decays. Truth becomes dream and dream truth. Cracks grow in the once stable structures of the past, allowing things misshapen and vile to worm through, emerging into day's wan light. The known world closes in, bounded to the west by the massive Bergen crypt with its catacombs and ice-caked peaks, and surrounded by the endless sea to the north, south, and east. Many have plowed the waves' furrow in search of new lands. They all return against their will, alive or dead. Ooh, creepy. All right, here we get a very abstractish kind of map. There's no scale given, but it just gives us a general sense of things. There's Bergen Crypt. If you're listening to this, it's not spelled exactly like the word crypt. It's Chrypt. I'm presuming I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's still crypt and not tripped, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Maybe I'll ask them on Thursday when I speak to them. So we have some regions: Allianz, Kyrgyz, Graventosk, Tveland, Galgenbeck, that city, the river, looks like a river Mur, Trift, and then there's also Schleiswig and Onda and a wasteland and the Valley of the Unfortunate Undead. And surrounding all of this is the endless sea. I'm going to read the box text. So here we're getting some more of the setting stuff, which I'm going to kind of skip over because, like I said, I'm going to be bouncing around a little bit. I'm not trying to read every little thing, but the box text seems like it speaks to something important. I don't know. I'll find out in a second. As time grows ever shorter, the two-headed basilisks become ever more desperate in their recruitment. To take one's own life is considered sinful cowardice. The road to salvation lies through mortification of the flesh. The apocalypse is to be met with eyes wide open. Only then can the soul be allowed passage to the shimmering fields. Heretics and apostates are hunted down and corrected in public and at length by the Inquisition. So that's some nice ideas of the kind of religious and philosophical, I guess, concepts. Patrick Bernard says, I use a bit of the mythic underworld logic with the whole setting. Everything is a bit warped. and indistinct as reality is starting to fray. That's probably a good way to do it. It definitely seems to kind of match up with the vibe that they're giving here. We have this place called the Palace of the Shadow King, a gothic black castle, like a mirror to the cathedral of the two-headed basilisk in Galgenbeck. Most of the palace lies in crumbling ruins, home to unfortunate souls sheltering beneath its broken halls. None dare dream what might lie under the rubble-covered catacombs and cellars. Tunnels sprawl beneath like writhing roots, digging deeper into the cold earth like cancerous veins. The inner wing still stands, acting as the home of the Shadow King, a being obscured by ritual. The slaves of the servants of the courtiers of the king come forth and do his will. Wow, that's that's a mouthful. The slaves of the servants of the courtiers of the king. Well, there we go. The title is hereditary. Sons are always born to the Shadow King. It's whispered princes of that line disguise themselves as ordinary men wandering the ruins, engaging in games and tricking travelers, multiplying the miseries of their people. They sound like fine folk. So I'm not sure if this. So the palace is in Graventosk. We also have Grift, all right. Kurgus is another place. Lovely picture of this kind of a very. It looks like almost a depiction of a Virgin Mary type figure, but this Virgin Mary figure is removing someone's head from their shoulders. Hey, Brian Smith, thanks for joining. Maybe this is Anthelia, so I don't know if I imagine it relates to this image because it's right next to it, but we have this text called Anthelia's Ambivalence. Oh, I see. Here, hold on. I should have read up first. All right, so Kurgus is, let's see, is ruled by, I guess, the Blood Countess Anthelia. Anthelia is well aware that time is short. Neuroses burden her. Why is everything so pale, so cold? She cries out for color or warmth. She drains the world of both with every glance, touch, and breath. Those who bring her vibrant life are promised great rewards. All fear to do so. Excuses are made, explanations found. The feelings of the Countess are fragile. Her power is absolute. Court life entails gray opulence, excitement, and fear. Definitely a weird, spooky place. I really like the image. It's just super. I think it's because she has this Virgin Mary kind of look on her face, but then there's something a little creepy about her mask, her actual face. It's kind of, I mean, her whole manner has that look, but then the face has this little bit of creepiness there. It's almost like a doll. And then the fact that she has removed some kneeling knight's head from his shoulders, and the way the black sprays out like blood. Very, very, very strong, powerful image. We have the Western Kingdom, also called Vastland. Lake Ondo. So maybe Ondo. Okay, so I saw Ondo on the map, and it is a lake, I guess. Then we have the Valley of the Unfortunate Undead. Rumors whisper the basilisk he is coiled within crypts, a sight infrequently survived. Lies and legends enshroud the valley, obscuring any truth. Peddlers' tales say the soil, the very air, is lethal, bringing a sleepless, stumbling death. This is no clean fate, but a slow-growing, fathomless despair, weighing down the traveler with poisoned memories and dark thoughts until the spark of life is mutated into a mournful, hopeless undeath. Others claim lost wanderers can fall and find themselves in the realm of the dead when the black soil hungrily drags them under the earth. Those without hope travel here seeking an end to pain, a golden afterlife beyond this dark and ruined world. They gather in suicide cults, and the valley's few twisted trees begin to droop strange fruit from hempen rope. Others plumb the crypts seeking Verhu, believing they can persuade him of other fates. Some simply and stupidly leave gifts and sacrifices to a power they cannot comprehend. Gloom grows, obscuring the world like an oil-stained image. I don't know about that strange fruit image. I don't know enough about it, but the reference that I get from that is lynchings, which is not what they're going for here. I mean, it's just imagery. It's a great, beautiful, strange image, but I probably wouldn't have picked that words. I don't know if that where the term originally comes from, and maybe it has references outside of lynchings, but that's what I know it from. So I might have found some other words. I don't know if that's just something where they picked it. This was translated, right? So it's someone translated this from, I guess, the original language. I'm guessing Swedish, maybe. And I don't know. Maybe they just chose it because they want that particular, bring in that kind of energy. But in this case, they're talking about, I assume, people hanging themselves from the tree, not being forcibly hung by others. Maybe would have found a different word there, but the overall thing is it's very creepy. Terrence is Billie Holiday. Yeah, I think that's where. Yeah, yes, I believe. Right, it's from her the song, and she's talking about. And I don't know if she made up from somewhere else, but yeah, she's definitely referencing lynchings. So probably stochastic. Remember, it ties into reference to suicide cults. I get that, but there's a big difference between being lynched and committing suicide, right? It's just unfortunate because I read that and it just pulls me out a little bit and just reminds me of things that I doubt they're trying to remind me of, and maybe a lot of folks just won't get that part of it. And I don't know enough about it to know. Terrence mentioned Billie Holiday, which sounds like that where it might be from. I mean, that's what kind of he said it in my mind's like, oh yeah, right. But I don't know. It's just I just pick a different, pick something else. But the calendar of Nethrobel. The world trembles. One can feel it in ways sharp and subtle, mysterious and clear. One by one, inevitable events demand their place. Illustrating this, the game master is, I think, the first time I've seen a reference to mechanics really outside just tables. Illustrating this, the game master rolls a die each dawn. A result of one activates one misery. The die used is determined by the GM and the group. The GM then rolls a d66 to determine which misery occurs. The same misery will not befall the world twice. And then there's another note here, kind of 7 to 7. The seventh misery will always be 7 to 7, and the world finally dies. The seventh seal is broken for the seventh and final time. The game and your lives end here. Burn the book. Okay, well, I don't I don't know if I'd burn the book, but Brian Smith says, I get the same injury, maybe specific to Americans with that phrase. And then Dungeon Master Masterclass says, yeah, this text is from a different culture. It's hard to know what they were going for. Yeah, I think the thing is it was translated, right? So I don't think that they probably came up with that same phrase in, I'm going to say Swedish, but I'm apologies. I think that might be it, but I'm not totally sure the original language. But I think someone, presumably American or British, or someone, right, then came in, or maybe not, but someone with good English language came in and I'm sure tried to find something that matched up with that imagery and translated, and they just picked that phrase, and probably a fair amount of people just pass over it. I happen to sort of recognize something from there, and it just kind of just doesn't hit me right. But it's kind of a your miles away. It's just a little bit unfortunate because just for that moment, it just kind of pulls me back a little bit, and like I could see where they wanted to found it and maybe thought, oh, what an interesting way to refer to it, because it is such a beautiful, weird thing, image for this. It's just, maybe a second glance would have said, hey, you know what, maybe we don't want to bring that particular thing in, because I think I don't have it in front of me, but I bet you if someone goes in and starts Google searching, you'll probably see, I'm going to guess that kind of stuff will come up, and you go, well, maybe we don't want to link our role-playing game to lynchings, even if we're going for death metal. But whatever, it's it is what it is. Maybe if they do a third printing, they'll change it, or maybe not. Maybe it hasn't bothered enough people for it to matter too much. Brian Smith says, if it's in PDF form, burn a CD of the book. Does that count? Print out the book, print out a couple of pages and burn it. All right. So we can pick the die we want to use to roll for misery. We can use a D100, a D20, a D10, a D6, or D2, which will certainly indicate to us how quickly we will get miseries, and thus how quickly we will get to the seventh mystery, which ends it all. A really great idea. Are these, and then we get these psalms. Are these psalms? These must be These must be the miseries, I'm guessing, right? These psalms. Nonetheless, says a mechanic where you burn the rule book is great for sales. It's I suppose in a way it's not dissimilar to those legacy games. And if you're familiar with board games and all, they have these games they call legacy games where you are literally changing, physically altering the game as you play. And some of them you can reverse it at the end. Some of them, what you're left with, it still is playable, but you have your own kind of personalized version of the game with the stuff you changed coming through it. And then some of them it's just kind of done, and there's nothing much to do left then to basically burn it, throw it away. I know sometimes you can get these reset kits for different games, but yeah, certainly. This is watered down cider, a drink for the working man. Oh, so Casagage says they used a D2, they multiplied by 2 and got the 4 days. Oh, I got you. All right, so I'm gonna read the first. They call them psalms here. I'm thinking they mean miseries. Stochastic agency, you can be my my guide here. If these, I'm thinking they are because there's 7 of them. 7 is the last. Maybe I won't read the last one. Let's just read the first one. I don't know what the 7:7 is though. I see 2-1, or is that because we're rolling a D? We're rolling a D66. I see. Okay, so it looks like each one of these within are independent. So 1-1 is the city shall be made hollow. Of those who rest in hollowness, they shall not be seen. 1-2 is and the earth shall shake and be riven, and from the cracks shall rise a poisonous mist, and in 10 days it will shroud the world. 1-3 is of those who build mightily stone by stone, so shall they fall stone by stone. And 1-4 is and the depths of the underworld shall bring forth flying specters and crawling beasts. In their passing the worm grows fat, the vulture weary. 1-5 is doubt is crowned. The loyal shall turn their blades on those who silver gave. And then finally 1:6 and blood cough shall spread like fire across the wastelands of the drought. All very cool. Obviously, all of them require a lot of figuring out. It might be interesting to have the players get in on this a little bit in terms of what exactly is happening. If you wanted to add some kind of story, gamey kind of share a little bit of the narrative burden here, because these are some big, vast, also slightly vague. What does it mean, those who build mightily stone by stone? Who is that referring to? Are architects? Or is there Freemasons? And then what does that mean as they fall stone by stone? So it's really intriguing, but take some brain power, some imagination to figure out how that all is going to work. Stochastic agency says an earthquake. Oh, it could be. That's definitely one way to do it. In this world, there are those who seek riches, or redemption. Some say the apocalypse is escapable, that it might even be stopped. And there you walk in discord and despair. One hand holds 2d6 times 10 silver. The other holds a water skin and d4 days worth of food. Your soul and your silver are your own and equally easy to lose. To begin with, you are what you own. All right. And then you're rolling a d6 to see what kind of stuff you have. And then you can, I guess so it's a d6 and 2 d12s. Do you roll all of those? Or is it based on, I'm not sure here. So the d6 seems like a container. Either you have no container, either you have then a backpack, a sack, a small wagon, or a donkey. And then it looks like the first D12 is maybe a normal sized items. So you have rope, some torches, lantern, magnesium strip, an unclean scroll, a sharp needle, a medicine chest, metal file, a bear trap, a bomb, red poison, or silver crucifix. And then there's a second D12, I guess it's just more stuff, maybe bigger stuff. A life elixir or random sacred scroll, a small but vicious dog, some monkeys that ignore but love you. Like it. exquisite perfume, a toolbox, a heavy chain, a grappling hook, a shield, a crowbar, some lard, or a tent. Definitely an interesting mix of items there. Dungeon Master Masterclass says, if you set up that prophecies are never wrong, you better make the prophecies pretty vague. Well, this is true. Also very true. Scrolls are the twisted magic of Mork Borg. Read more on page 34. We will. So basically, easy enough to make a character. You're going to randomize your starting equipment. You're going to randomize your weapon and armor. You're going to roll your abilities. You're going to roll your hit points. You're going to name your character if you wish. It will not save you. So there you go. Simple. Here we get a femur bone as a weapon. And we get this is nice. The illustration of the weapons basically with them stabbing. I think this is just a medieval. I don't know if they made up this illustration themselves or just kind of colorized it slightly, but it gives all the damages. Right. So Cassie Cage just point out, right, the prophecies are separate from the miseries. This is true, right? Those prophecies are the things that the basilisk Verhu has set forth. These miseries are things that happen. Terrence says the online Scumbirther makes character gen even easier. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. I'll have to take a look at that tool. So you have your average weapons: stabs, short swords, knives, warhammers, swords, bows, unarmed, all good. I'd like a femur bone. We also get a flail and a crossbow and a Zweihander, because why not? Armor, you can roll a d4, but if you begin with a scroll, then you only roll a d2. Looks like we have no armor, light, medium, heavy, and then you could also get a shield. And scrolls will never work if you're using a two-hander or using medium or heavy armor. And then we have a actual table. Lard can function as 5 meals. That's pretty handy. A medicine box stops bleeding / infections and will heal you some hit points. And Stochastic Agency says, a key thing is that you must roll and not pick. Everything is random. All right. Now you can buy some beasts, which is cool. And I like that you can repair some armor. I don't know exactly the tiers yet, but pretty cool. And it's got some services, some other stuff. Nice. Boy, the style jumps between some of these pages is pretty breathtaking. So the abilities are in the game. I'm gonna speed past these. Just we want to know. We get agility, which is your helps you defend, bounce, swim, or flee. Presence, which helps you perceive, aim, charm, and wield powers. Strength to crush, lift, strike, and grapple. And then toughness to resist poison, cold, and heat, and also survive falling. That's true. Nothing. That's a good point. Stochastic Agency went all caps and did not get burned down by Nightbot. So yeah, Nightbot's got it out for Brian, I guess. I didn't even notice that. Maybe it was the double single. Is that Nightbot's secret weakness? I don't know if that's a double quote or 2 single apostrophes. There might be a loophole in the programming. We're gonna roll. They're rolling. What are we rolling here? Roll 46 and drop lowest for 2 of their abilities. Well, what do you do with the other 2? I don't know. Maybe that's a 3d6. That's an interesting way of doing it. So you can kind of pick a couple. I mean, there's only 4, so getting half of them that are going to be, on average, a little bit higher is good. When a character is later improved in ability, can never exceed +6 or -3. All right. You can get all the way up to +6. And then we have this, we can see what the difficulty rating chart is. So it goes from 6, which is so simple that if you fail, people will laugh at you. And then at the very high end is 18, which shouldn't be possible, and 16, which is really hard. Oh, and Terrence also snuck through. Nope. Nope. Nightbot came in. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Nightbot. Somehow Stochastic Agency got over Brian and Terrence get foiled. Well, okay. So we know at least a little bit about these difficulty ratings. Picture of art. All right, hit points begin with toughness plus a d8. In the worst case, 1 hit point, but never less. If you're 0 hit points, you're broken. If you're negative, you're dead. We're getting to. All right, I'm going to go past these, but it's good that we have rules for. I just want to see the broken. So if you end up at 0, you're going to roll a d4. If you roll a 1, you're going to fall unconscious for d4 rounds, but you are going to wake up with d4 hit points. If you roll 2 on this, you're going to roll a d6. On a 1 to 5, you have a broken or severed limb. On a 6, you have a lost eye. You can't act for d4 rounds, and then you can become active with d4 hit points. If you roll 3 on this broken table, you get a hemorrhage. You're dead in d2 hours unless you're treated. And then all tests are 16 difficulty, which was really hard. And then in the first hour and then the last hour, if you even get that far, they're DR 18, which is impossible. Dungeon Master Masterclass is, yep, said it well. Nightbot is a fickle master worthy of Mork Borg, indeed. Nightbot is the heretofore unknown third head of the basilisk. You can also get some crits and some fumbles. And then, all right, so I'm gonna roll past those. How long is a round? A round is enough time to make an attack or use a power and traverse a normal sized room. There are usually 10 rounds in 1 minute, meaning we're down to 6-second rounds. We do have a reaction roll here. Basically the same. It's pretty much your standard one. At the low end, it's kill. Then after that's anger, then indifferent, then almost friendly, and then helpful. We also have a morale rule here. Most enemies will not fight to the last drop of blood. Roll for morale if the leader is killed, half the group is eliminated, or a single enemy has only a third of their hit points left. You roll greater than the hero creature's morale value with 2d6. It is demoralized. Roll a d6 to see if the enemy flees. On a 1 to 3, it flees, or surrenders, which it does on a 4 to 6. And I do appreciate that they put these the situations in which you want to roll. I actually like for a single enemy, I feel like 1/3 of its hit points left, unless it's a really big nasty beast. I would actually maybe put it at half hit points, but then I might adjust it for how it feels like it's going in the fight. Because what you may find, and certainly especially when you're playing something like 5th edition or 4th edition, where creatures can get locked down. Paladin or somebody might put, or something put, hexes, hoodoo, whatever, things saying you can't move, or now you're tripped and you're falling down, or you must attack me, or something else like that. All those control maneuvers is if you wait till you're 1/3 of your hit points, then you may decide you want to surrender, but not have the time, or run away, let's say, and not have the time or rounds to do it because you lose a save and then you're locked down and they've knocked you over and you can't get up and all these things. So I actually would even go at half, do some kind of roll, and then you can add some modifiers to the roll to determine whether it feels like it's in a good spot or not. Getting better. The game master decides when a character should be improved. It can be after completing a scenario, killing mighty foes, or bringing home treasure. I will say, this is the milestone, and I get it. Milestones are super helpful. They're super popular, but I do not like them. I do not want to be making that decision as the game master. So either I would just say something saying it's always going to be after completing a scenario, in which case the players can choose their scenarios, and then they'll know when they can complete them, or I would go back to XP for gold or something else. I wouldn't use killing mighty foes because just me personally, I don't want that to be the focus of the game. Bring home the treasures, or I would even pick something that's kind of Mork Borgish, like maybe dealing with a misery. If we're going to have miseries happening, that might be one. I could have a couple things, right? There could be completing a scenario, or maybe if I want to make it player facing and more in the fiction, something is happening. If they choose to do that, then that. If there's a misery, they could do that. Maybe something to do with a prophecy, maybe discover a prophecy. I don't know. I would come up with some stuff, but I don't want to be deciding when I feel like they've leveled up. And I know people love it. Sorry, that's just me. I don't. But if you do like it, you can, and it seems like here we can not only not only get some more hit points, but you can actually roll and increase some abilities. Powers. A few so-called powers are known, and they are usually found written in scrolls. You can roll your presence plus a d4 every morning to determine how many times you can use powers that day. Choose from your available scrolls. When reading a scroll, test your presence. It's a DR12, so I think that's a middle-of-the-road test. If you succeed, the power is activated, and you subtract 1 use from your daily total. If you fail, the power doesn't work. You lose D2 hit points and become dizzy for the next hour. During this time, powers will always fail in the worst possible way. The GM decides the effect on a crit or a fumble, but on page 44 is optional table of arcane catastrophes. Yep, I would just roll on the table. So one thing, Stochastic Agency, since you've played this, I'm curious about you, and I forget who else in the chat has played it. There's a lot of dice. I don't know. I mean, I wonder, why not just make it your presence plus your level or something? Why presence plus D4 seems to be awfully swingy in how much you can use. Maybe that's just part of the fun and the thrill of, you don't know if your presence is, I don't know, 2. You might have 3 uses, or you might have 6. You don't know. It's interesting. I guess it looks like you don't ever have any. I guess it's like power. Powers is basically magic, right? So you don't have any inherent to you. You always, they're calling them scrolls, but essentially it's your spell book, and you just get to read from your spell book, and then either you make it or you fail. I do like that failing has a consequence. Lose some hit points. They have 2 types of scrolls. 2 types of scrolls. Unclean scrolls and sacred scrolls. I don't know. I haven't seen so far, unless I just scrubbed by it quickly, what the difference between them is. Other than that, some of them seem to me, maybe they're more evil or destructive versus creative or life affirming. I don't know what to call it. But the unclean scrolls, was going to go through the titles here. Stochastic Agent says the game leans into the randomness of the roll. Not every character has unclean or sacred scrolls. Okay. So we have, for the unclean scrolls, we have Palms Open the Southern Gate, Tongue of Eris, Telekinesis, Lucy Fires Levitation, Daemon of Capillaries, 9 Violet Signs Unknot the Storm, Metsuatl Blind Your Eye, or is that Wetzelotl or Metsuatl? Foul Psychopompy, or Psychopomp. Then Eyelid Blinds the Mind, and then Death. And okay, so Stochastic Agency has confirmed is positive and negative. And then Terrence likes my life-affirming Mork Borg. Absolutely. I think the one thing we'll note here is the names are, we've been, if you haven't noticed on the streams, we have our monthly streams reading The Dying Earth right now. And some of these feel very much like they would exist quite fine in the Dying Earth setting. And then on the sacred side, we have Grace of a Dead Saint, Grace for a Sinner, Whispers Past the Gate, Aegis of Sorrow, Unmet Fate, Bestial Speech, False Dawn, or the Knight's Chariot, Hermetic Step, Costco's Consuming Glare, or Nokian Syntax. We have a picture of she, and the I guess we can there's no context for this, but I suppose that she, which is one of the two-headed basilisks, can make demands. And we can roll a d20 to find out what their demand is. Don't know what this demand would be in exchange for. They just demand it because this is what they want. And I guess it seems like they're pretty much worshipped. So this is what you do. But it might be a sword that is killed exactly 12 times, potentially silver from a sinner's grave, a body mutilated by those who loved it in life, a body drowned in Lake Onda, the rear molar of the gluttonous, so on and so forth. Terrence says, Mork Borg, the chunky cable knit sweater and comforting cup of tea of RPGs. Yeah, if this comforts you, you might need to seek some some help. We have some omens here. Clearly, the eyes of other powers are upon you, eldritch watchers, or the tangled fates of alternate worlds. Call it luck if you like. Every class gains a number of omens. If you play without classes, every character begins with D2 omens. When depleted, roll the class's designated die, D2 if playing without classes, and regain that many omens after resting at least 6 hours. You use omens to deal maximum damage with one attack, re-roll a dice roll, yours or someone else's, lower damage dealt to you by d6, neutralize a crit or fumble, or lower one's test difficulty rating by -4, or just lower it by 4. Cool, so there's kind of like inspiration. I like it. Here we get some optional tables. I'm going to scoot past these because I'm conscious of the time and I kind of want to see more rather than less. We can get some terrible traits. You can roll twice, get stuff like cruel, worried, bitter, deceitful, nihilistic, etc. You could get some, I would call these maybe physical quirks. You could have a staring manic gaze. You could be covered in blasphemous tattoos. You could have a red, swollen alcoholic's nose. You could have a resting maniac face. Making friends is hard. Indeed. And you could also have one of D20 bad habits, such as obsessively collecting small, sharp stones. Or you won't use a blade without testing it on your own flesh. Your arm is knitted with scars. You can't stop drinking once you start. You're an insecure-ish stir. You will talk about whoever just left the room. You stutter when lying, or potentially you giggle insanely at the worst possible times. That might be my favorite. Hey, Ian says, clearly the Mr. Rogers of role-playing games. Yes, if Mr. Rogers was in hell. Here we get another table of sorts. Troubling tales. The whole group can share the same backstory, or groups within the group can share a tale. Or the GM can quickly give history to a seemingly mundane character. Roll 20 or throw a knife at the page to the right. Okay, especially if you're looking at this in the PDF form like I am, don't throw the knife. Just going to ruin your monitor. I mean, your best case scenario is probably a crack in the screen. Worst case is you've got sparks and a monitor that's no longer functional and a blade sticking out of it. And if you're going to do that to the book, put the book up against the wall away from anybody else. If you're going to throw the knife at it, don't throw the knife, let's say, when your partner or one of your players or your GM is reading the book. Choose that time to throw the knife at it. Maybe it's best to make a photocopy, take it outside, put it up against one of those hay archery targets, stand back a few feet and clear of everybody else. Maybe wear some goggles just in case, and then, throw a knife. All right, so what are these kind of tales we can get? You could be pursued for manslaughter, and there's a bounty on you. You might be in massive debt. The debt is being traded to successfully more ruthless groups. You have a rare sought-after item. You're cursed to share the nightmares of others. You sleep far, far away. Burn or be burned is the fate you accepted. You're at permanent war with all corvids. I don't know what a corvid is yet. No contact without some violence. You carry a sling. So, and there's more, of course. All right, so this, you're even having trouble. Let's see, effects in italic are things the caster might not immediately realize. This is the arcane catastrophes. I see. You read it wrong, you illiterate fool. All right, so these are the things that can go wrong when casting a spell. Ian says, safety first, despair second. Exactly. And then Brian Smith says, seems like the perfect thing to have on the door to your game room. A scrap of paper with rules on it stuck to the door with knives. Real bandit feel. Absolutely. And then Dungeon Master Masterclass is letting me know that corvids are ravens and related birds. I see. All right, cool. And my squeezing arm. Hey, my squeezing arm says, yeah, you're late, but the system looks awesome. Well, my squeezing arm, feel free to head back to the beginning and start anew. Just there's going to be about 5 minutes of me fumbling around trying to get this thing to start when having technical difficulties, so feel free to skip forward. I have been told that I could edit those out of YouTube without having to make a whole new video, so I might try that after this as a first shot to skip all that shenanigans. All right, so I'm just going to read a couple of these. One by one, your teeth fall out. Long, brittle fingernails replace them in your gums. All right, that is gross. Your smile is horrific and you find it hard to eat. Indeed. So these are really permanent or semi-permanent. You feel fine. It's fine. You pustulate with a magical STD. Those intimate with you will die of plague within D4 days, then rise as woeful, weeping zombies who track you down in your dreams before finding you in reality. Well, I don't know if that would come up in my game, but yeah, that's pretty grim. Let me just pick another random one here. The power pierces you like a knife, feeding on your enema. You are permanently gaunt and drawn, insatiably hungry. When resting, you restore only half the rolled hit points. Oof. And then maybe I'll read one more. You fall through Refva into the esoteric dimension of Cube Violet, place of mythical obscurity. The walls are smooth, iridescent, and cold. Above, an endless inferno. To leave, you have to slay Riddling Kulvan. That's a strong goblin who holds 3 colorless pearls. You need to poison a close friend with crumbled, sicked shroom. They are found only within the cube. But if you have to poison somebody with it and it's in the cube, but you have to leave the cube to poison somebody, how could you poison them? I don't know how that would work. You need to reach up through the fire to the golden key above. Some of your, D4 fingers burnt to ash. Or on a 4, the cube is perfect and empty. You can only wait in maddening, timeless silence until another fool arrives. Oof, brutal. Brutal. Oh, and then the last one is he emerges from the shadows and devours you. That he being the basilisk he. My squeezing arm thanks me for the heads up. No problem, and you'll see this welcome when you get back here in the future. It'll like I'll be speaking to you from the past into the future, my squeezing arm. These are some optional classes. Get the Fang Deserter. And then what are these? You could start with you have some earliest memories you can roll on and some stuff you can start with. I really like that. A very Lord of the Rings, the sort of, what was it like? Saruman's orcs, the Uruk-hai had some helmets like that. You could be a gutterborn scum. You could be an esoteric hermit, wretched royalty, a heretical priest, an occult herb master, and that's the last one. So you're basically I'm not going to say standard classes, but they're gothic, gonzo, death metal versions of standard classes. Now we'll just get some creatures. Seth the Goblin. I guess that's what they're calling goblins, or is that a particular goblin? Maybe there's a Seth Goblin. Maybe that's what it's called. Bent Scum, Zokuma, a Berserker, Rat, which is a Wraith. Maybe these are just different names, so it's either Zokuma or Berserker, and Rat and Wraith are the same. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to go with Blood-Drenched Skeleton, a Bells, or Belzy. We got the good old-fashioned Lich here. Troll, but definitely a different looking troll than maybe our normal kind. I wonder if these are the original language names above, and maybe troll come from Scandinavian, basically straight in English. That's why they don't translate it. Maybe lich as well. But then a zombie as a nod or node. Not sure. Oh my gosh, the undead doll lady porcelain. That's some good old nightmare fuel right there. Boy, why don't I just put on what was that? Those movies that they've made a dozen movies about that stupid doll. A grotesque called Thinks. Alan the wicked-headed knife wielder. Eulotha the wyvern. And then we get some outcasts. Earthbound, wild wickhead, a pale one, or a prowler. Annabelle, thank you, Ryan Smith. Yeah, Blech is right. All right, so now, okay, so that is the end of I don't know if I guess the end of the main rule. Here we get rot back sludge. I think if I'll do this, all right, I'm not gonna do the adventure. I'm just gonna zip through it. I don't want to go to the adventure. All right, that's it. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna end it here. Aheru. Oh, hey, Aheru, who is Swedish. Great. The names are just cool, not Scandinavian or anything. Okay, cool. Good to know. I'm not sure, and I didn't want to suggest, but yeah, that's good. Awesome. Thanks for the clarification. So I have an interview with the guys. Should, if it holds true, which it seems like it is, since I emailed them a confirmation earlier and they confirmed back to me that Thursday is a go. So Thursday, it'll be Thursday. It'll be a little bit later than my normal stream, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, which translates to 9:30 Central European time. They will be on. I now that I have this fresh in my mind, I'll be able to formulate some questions and things to ask them about and talk about. If you folks have any questions, things you to talk about, let me know. Drop it here in the forums, drop it in the comments, drop it in the community tab. Maybe I'll even make a community tab post for questions if you want me to ask. And then let me know. I'll probably put a poll up somewhere, either on my forums or in the community tab again, for if you want me to look at this intro adventure for Mork Borg, if that would be useful to folks or not. It's a really fascinating system. I can see why it appeals to a lot of people. I can also see why, frankly, given the layout and just the sort of nature of it, that it could hit people the wrong way, or people, I know there was some feedback I read a while back, people finding that it could be difficult to wrap your head around, because I think there's not a lot of that hand-holding kind of text. They're really just throwing a lot of stuff at you, and if you can absorb it and figure it out, you can see how they fit together and see how they work. But at the same time, there's not all those kind of intro, outro paragraphs establishing, here was this table is, here's what this table's for, here's this, here's that, right? And really just wham, bam. And I think it's one of those things that works for it and against it, being that it just is so stylish and so design oriented that is both beautiful, but some of that beauty also can obscure things. I know just for myself, some of those very gothic fonts can be hard to read, and you probably heard me stumble over a few things as I was trying to work out if it was what a word might be when it wasn't super clear, and you got tables scattered over, and they kind of do a lot of stuff. So it's got a ton going on, but it was a very much a fun read, and I'll definitely be back to it for more. I'm going to talk to those folks later on in the week, and I'll try to remember to link something, put it in the description here once I have the stream info, and then after the stream is done, link it here so folks can check that out. Thanks everyone for joining me. If you got in here late, I'm wrapping, but feel free to go back to the beginning of the stream. Just keep in mind, I had some technical difficulties, and I apologize for those at the beginning. So the first 5, 6, 7 minutes might just me be fumbling around in various states of trying to figure things out. I had to reboot my machine and then hop back in, and the stream kind of kept running, but I'm sure my face is disappearing, reappearing, my voice coming from beyond the grave and then back again. But I got that figured out, and they were able to get through it. Stochastic Agent says, it's just so simple, it doesn't need much. There's lots of room for interpretation. Yes, I agree. And I think depending where you are in your GM journey, you're going to see those things as being either really good or not, right? And I think for some folks, they're going to find that this hits them exactly what they need, because they can take what they want, leave what they want. There's no wasted space, no wasted words, nothing like that. Other folks are going to feel like, no, I really kind of want or need a little bit more from it. But it was designed a decision they made. And look at the popularity and how just, I feel like Mork Borg sort of exploded into kind of prominence in OSR. And really, if it didn't define this kind of black metal genre, I feel like it's become the thing that the exemplar or the sort of poster for it. Clearly it struck a lot of people the right way. Dungeon Master Masterclass is scared to test Nightbot. Don't want to get its bad side. You definitely don't. All right, folks. I'll be out of here for now. I will be back tomorrow and beyond. There will always be more. And like I said, I'll put some more stuff about if there's more about Mork Borg you'd like me to cover, and then look for that interview later on in the week. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Figurehead, Stochastic Agent said. That's a good word. Yes, it has become the figurehead of sort of black metal OSR. Game on, everybody. Talk to you later.